Archaeologist George Luer dated the Yellow Bluffs mound circa 1400 to 1513 AD. This, I suppose, was by dating the shards of pottery and other items found. The dates associated with these mounds and their use seems to comically coincide with Columbus's arrival to the United States. Are we really supposed to believe that as a historical fact? Or is it much more likely that when the Spanish came to this country, they utilized or repurposed these mounds much like the natives did for lookout locations due to Florida's low-lying terrain?
It's highly unlikely almost any of these mounds found in Florida date closely to the time Columbus arrived. What is more likely is that most of these mounds were built in the Archaic and Woodland periods, and then used by other tribes upon their migration to these areas, hundreds or thousands of years later.
The natives were building mounds during the years 1400 AD through 1600 AD, but giving the mounds Spanish names seems to really rob these cultures of their legacy.
The Tocobaga Indians inhabited what is now known as St. Petersburg, Florida. One can drive through a large suburban community of middle-class Americans into a neighborhood known for its pink streets, and there we can truly see a perfect example of modern man's encroachment onto sacred land, and how for centuries we've been building on the graves of much older civilizations.
The Pinellas Point Temple Mound has severely eroded throughout time, and the neighboring homes are so packed together, someone's home is practically built on the mound itself.
In regards to the missing mounds throughout Florida, it should be considered that due to weather, including long periods of rain, tropical storms, hurricanes, that the erosion or the complete overall loss of these mound structures around the coastline is somewhat inevitable.
There's really a combination of two factors as to why today's society can't appreciate these Indian mounds. The first reason is that most of these mounds were repurposed for reasons like building roads. The second loss is a natural form caused by age and erosion.
Tampa, Florida has a deep-rooted history surrounded by Native Americans. There are three cultures specifically that date back to the 5th century who occupied the areas of Safety Harbor, Weeden Island, and Minnesota.
A 40-foot prehistoric Native American canoe was recently found buried underneath the sand close to the shores of Weeden Island in Florida. Experts say it's from a time period from over 1,000 years ago. Archaeologists are curious to how it could have survived the salty and sandy environment for so long. It's currently the longest canoe of its type located in Florida, and it's on display at the Weeden Island Preserve and History Center.
15 different Native American villages were discovered all along the coast of Florida. There was a time when Indian mounds covered this area, which is now covered by businesses and shopping centers and homes.
In St. Petersburg, Florida, nearly a dozen mounds were destroyed in the late 1800s for land development, primarily using the mounds to build shell roads. The shells from the mounds were crushed and used as the foundation of the roads before the pavement went down. Anywhere you go in St. Petersburg, Florida, you're basically standing over historic Indian mounds.
Hardly anything remains of these once incredible mounds. The majority of them have been demolished.
A few mounds did survive though. The mound at Philippi Park at Safety Harbor is one of the better preserved mounds. It's a 20-foot high burial mound left by the Tocobaga tribe. At one point, this entire area had large communities of Native Americans located in all of its surrounding villages.
Another is the Indian Temple Mound, which is located in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. This mound is easily one of the largest ceremonial mounds in Florida. They found nearly 1,000 artifacts at Temple Mound. American Indian groups inhabited this area for nearly 12,000 years.
Throughout Florida, Paleo-Indian tribes made hundreds of mounds. In Tallahassee, the Lake Jackson mounds were built between 1200 and 1500 AD. This site has 6 temple mounds, and the largest is over 35 feet tall.
One of the most elaborate mounds ever created is what's known as the Serpent Mounds, located in Adams County, Ohio. This snake-shaped mound is nearly 1,500 feet long. The date and creators of Serpent Mound are still debated to this day. Several claims have been made concerning both the Adena culture and the Fort Ancient culture. Both of these subcultures belong to the broader Hopewell culture. All of these civilizations had similar characteristics. Historically, the mound has been attributed to the Adena Indians, who were around from the year 800 BC to 100 AD.
The effigy mounds in Iowa contain over 200 prehistoric mounds built by Native Americans. Numerous mounds are shaped like animals, including bears and birds. These were built mostly in the first millennium by peoples of the woodland culture.
During the middle of the woodland period, the prehistoric Native Americans of the Hopewell culture constructed mounds and filled them with precious artifacts such as copper and silver. Perhaps this is why so many of the mounds have been destroyed.
Between 200 BC and 500 AD, the state of Minnesota had several tribes of the Hopewell mound builders, one of which we have recorded for more than 1,000 years. They were called the Laurel culture, and they occupied northern Minnesota, Michigan, and Ontario.
You can find American Indian mound sites in Mississippi as well, but the construction of these particular mounds didn't begin until around 2,000 years ago. Around 800 years ago, the lower Mississippi Delta was home to many high-ranking individuals. At this time, mound building was coming to an end, and that's primarily because the Europeans were coming over and spreading disease epidemics. As a result, it wiped out native population tribes all over the area.
There are numerous types of mounds. A platform mound was meant to hold homes or structures. The tribes of North America built mounds for well over 1,000 years, starting from the Archaic period into the Woodland period.
Some mounds were developed with separate levels, like Emerald Mound, which is one single mound with two smaller mounds on its summit. Monk's Mound has 4 separate levels and stands nearly 100 feet high. Monk's Mound was built over a 10-year period and likely underwent a rebuild every year.
Some mounds are known to have 100 or more burials inside of them, along with ceremonial items such as copper, precious stones, and more. Native Americans built mounds in North America about 1,000 years before the pyramids were built in Egypt.
There were numerous cultures of mound builders over a 5,000-year period, most in completely different places spread out over North America. So it's interesting that they would all collectively use some form of mound building technique.
Poverty Point Mound is located in Louisiana, and oddly enough, it has the design or shape of an amphitheater. Its diameter is 5 times larger than the Colosseum in Rome, Italy. One of the mounds has a base of 800 feet and it stands over 70 feet high. Poverty Point Mound was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List, which includes sites like Taj Mahal and Stonehenge.
It's said the mound was built by refugees, and some people actually believe the mound is haunted.
Some say Poverty Point has a connection to the extraterrestrial world.
Poverty Point has been described as one of the world's greatest feats of construction by an archaic civilization. It's believed that the mound was constructed in less than 90 days, and some even think in less than 30.
We should continue to protect and maintain these mounds so that we can preserve the rich history of America for our future generations. This leads us to the question of where we draw a line on what we mean by protecting and preserving these sacred sites. Who gets to make that decision? And is it okay to just build on graves?